Hello, everyone. It's Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon, and a lot of things. I am recording this video in two places on, as usual, IG Live and another camera for YouTube. So if I'm looking in two places, I apologize in advance. So today I wanted to do a discussion about feeling comfortable. This is going to be personal, right? Because feeling comfortable in your skin. I have, or me being comfortable in my skin, whatever, having a conversation about that. I often get people who will write to me on social media and they say, how did you, it's nice that you're so comfortable in your skin, or they ask me, how did I get so comfortable in my skin? And so there's a lot of misconceptions with that when it comes to me. The people who really know me know that I'm actually a little shy. People who meet me on social media, they think that I'm not shy because you see photos and stuff like that. But really, I, in my personal life, never loved to be in front of the camera. It's when I was in my early 20s and I was in graduate school, I wanted to get into fitness modeling because I'm a nerd, but a lot of you who follow me know. So I had a degree in exercise physiology and nutrition, and I was in graduate school. I worked in the fitness industry, and I was also doing journalism at the time, and I was writing fitness articles, and I wanted to get into fitness modeling. But that industry was not in New York. It was mostly on the West Coast. And I always would have photographers, even when I was like 12 years old. Agents and people would come up to me in the street in New York and they would tell me, oh, you should model. Because, I was long and lanky like this then. And my mom would take me to stuff because someone would come up to me in the street. And I wasn't necessarily interested in modeling. I was always interested in fashion design, and I love to dance. I'm a dancer. But my mom would take me to stuff, and I guess you could say go-sees or auditions. And the very same people who asked me to come there would then say to me, oh, you'd be perfect if your butt wasn't so big. You'd be perfect if your butt wasn't so big. That's all I heard. And I would think to myself, wow, I didn't ask to be here. Like, I didn't have a problem with my body. I didn't know how big my butt was because I couldn't see behind me. And, I only knew that when people kept telling me that over and over again throughout my life. And then I started to work with photographers and I could see different angles. But I did ballet as a child. I studied ballet at the Dance Theater of Harlem. And I remember being a little girl, I was so skinny. Like, my twin brother used to call me Olive Oil because I was so skinny. But I still had a butt. And the ballet teacher would be poking me in the butt, like, stick your butt in, stick your butt in, stick your butt in. And I remember squeezing my butt cheeks as tightly as I could, trying to make them smaller because I kept being poked. And it was a constant thing. So that brought a lot of discomfort for me. Like, that was like a sore spot or a sensitive spot for then later on, I am minding my business and people come up to me like, you should be a model. Come see me at this and blah, 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 blah. And then I come and then people are telling me to be perfect if my butt wasn't so big, right? So then when I was in undergrad at the University of Delaware, I danced for a dance company on campus, a student-run dance company. And I grew up in Washington Heights in New York, so I grew up around Dominicans. I grew up around all kinds of people in New York, but I grew up dancing merengue, which is a Dominican dance form, Afro-Dominican, and there's a lot of shaking and gyrating as well. And I remember choreographing a merengue piece on my campus, and classes driving me crazy. I remember choreographing a merengue piece on my campus, and I did this dance step where I turned my back to the audience, and I was shaking, there's a booty shaking step, and I remember the reaction of the audience, and I remember feeling uncomfortable because I'm actually kind of shy when all eyes are on me. People who know me, I'm a dancer, people who've known me for years, who've seen me in different scenes, I study a lot of different kinds of dance, but Afro-Puerto Rican Bomba is one thing that I've been studying for 12 years. And Afro-Puerto Rican Bomba, the dancer goes in front of the drummers and they challenge the drummers, and it's like a competition between the dancer and the prima or the primo, who's the lead drummer who's marking the dancer. I've always, even though I've studied with masters in New York, in Puerto Rico, I am too shy to go in front of the drum and everybody's staring at me. Even though there are plenty of people who can't dance, who are absolutely horrible, but they feel really comfortable, especially white people. But sometimes the worst people feel really comfortable. And I'm like, if that person can be comfortable, I should be comfortable. But at the same time, I don't want to be that person. I respect dance forms so much that I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the one thinking I'm cute and I look like a hot mess. Because I remember I had this one friend who always wanted to go out and dance. And it was like the elephant in the room because everybody who knew her thought it was horrible. And we would just wish she would stop because I'm not fake. I'm not going to lie and tell you you look good when you didn't. I'm just not going to say nothing. But I never wanted to be that girl. So I overthink things and I get really, really shy. Like, when I'm dancing with a dance company, it's different because it's like you have other people to camouflage you. But when it's all eyes on me, that's why I can never be a stripper. Besides the fact that I don't like the business of that, but even before I knew how the shipping business worked, I admired how they interacted with their audience, and it's a skill. You know, it's not just dancing because I can go up on a platform. Somebody can hire me to come to a party and dance with some paint or a little bikini or naked or something up on a platform. And I'll do that all day, as long as the money's right, of course. But as long as I don't have to interact with people, like I could be up there dancing in some gold glitter, and you could look at me, but I don't have to. I can't see you. I take my glasses off. I really can't see you. I'm fine with that, and even that can make me a little shy, but I'm still fine with that. But having to interact with people while I'm performing it, no, you know, that's one of the reasons why I got into pole dance because. I want to get over that shyness and that I'm not shy to speak. I'm never shy or have any confidence issues when it comes to my intelligence, when it comes to speaking. I always have something to say and I don't feel dumb and I know I'm smart. But when it comes to like being sexy or even like, you know, when I teach pole dance classes, when I would teach pole classes anywhere, Brooklyn, Harlem, taught in Chicago, but I remember, especially at the studio, I taught that in Harlem, but regardless, you know, when you're teaching pole, you have to be like damn near in a swimsuit, which is one thing I like about pole because you have women of all different body types who normally would never feel comfortable standing like that in front of people, and they get really comfortable because you have to have a lot of skin exposed for pole. And so it's a very accepting world. But at the same time, when I would be teaching, there was always one girl who would be like, they would ask me, how'd you get your ass like that? You know? And one girl would ask me, how'd I get my ass like that? And then a whole room of girls would be like, oh yeah, I was wondering the same thing. And then this whole conversation would break out about my ass. And every single time that happened, I literally wanted to disappear. People have no idea how embarrassing that is for me and like how shy I get. I really, really do. And a lot of times when I teach classes, I'm like that. I feel really shy, but I try to hide it because it's like I'm like everybody's staring at me, and I really wish everybody wasn't staring at me. And while I'm talking and everybody's staring at me, I might be feeling that way, but I'm a professional, so I try to override that and not show that, you know, because people are paying me for the teacher's class, you know. Teaching pole parties was a challenge because in a pole dance class, you can be a little nerdy, you're explaining technique, and I can be in that nerdy technical side, but when you're teaching pole parties to girls who are getting married or it's their birthday and they want to turn up, they want ratchet, they want sexy, you as a pole party instructor have to set that tone. And so we have to come in there with that sexy, wild, fun energy. And that's a challenge for me, you know. And when it has been a challenge for me and I was like, oh God, I just can't wait this is over, I would always think, well, it's not that hard. You know, it's not that hard, so I can get over it, just get over it, right? The photos, I used to be extremely uncomfortable in front of the camera. I remember the very first time, the way I got into nude modeling, so going back to when I was a graduate student and I wanted to do fitness modeling, but it was like one photographer. So from the time I was a kid, I had photographers and people come up to me and tell me I should model, okay? Fast forward to, I was an athlete and a dancer growing up. So fast forward to when I was like 22 years old, and now I'm a full-time graduate student. And this is before social media. So it might have been like one photographer that saw me and asked me if he could shoot me, right? And at the time I belonged to a network of models and photographers called One Model Place. And I did a shoot with this photographer. He asked me to put on a mask. It was a nude shoot. He asked me to put on a mask and do like leaps in the air. I'm okay. You know, like I was always open-minded, so I didn't have a problem being naked from a standpoint of open-mindedness. You know what I'm saying? Like I've had people ask me if they could watch me have sex before, and there's times that I said yes because I'm open-minded. But then when I was in this situation, I'm actually too shy for that because I'm not an exhibitionist. People who don't know me think I'm an exhibitionist. I am not an exhibitionist. Exhibitionists are people who get off on being watched. I'm actually not like that. I'm not. I'm just a dancer. So as a dancer, you have to be watched because our art form is visual, right? But no, I don't get off on being watched, and I don't get. I've never had desires except, yeah, I've never had desires about anybody watching me have sex except when I'm with a really sexy woman. Then there are times I'm like, somebody should see this shit because I just think that two women is just beautiful. So women can turn me into an exhibitionist. Women can do that. Women can make me do things that other people can't, but that's a whole other side story. Yeah, and if I ever had a woman in my life who was about it, comfortable with herself, and super sexy and wild, you would see another side of me. But that's the only way you probably would see that. Otherwise, I'm always a work in progress, trying to get over my shyness because I feel like it holds me back a lot. But the thing is that when I started doing, so I did this shoot, I put the photos on one model place, and then there were other photographers who saw it and wanted to shoot me. So photographers kept approaching me to shoot me. And it was the photographers who wanted to do nude shoots. Like some of them, the shoots weren't all nude. Like they might have, I might have had closer part of it, but all of them wanted to do a portion of the shoot nude. And I remember at the time, I did not feel comfortable in my skin. Whoever was in my life, whatever man was in my life, I needed to have sex with the lights off. I remember when I was like in my early 20s, realizing that a lot of men like to have sex with the light on, and I just wanted complete darkness, complete pitch darkness. I didn't feel comfortable naked and with anybody looking at me in my personal life. But because of these photographers were artists, and the photographers that would ask me to shoot, none of them were sleazeballs. I never had any experience with any. Maybe like once, a long, long time ago, I had an issue with a photographer trying to push up on me. But 95% of the shoots that I've done and these photos that you see, like the issue that I had with a certain photographer a while ago, those photos aren't even. I've never even presented those photos to anybody. But all the photos that you've ever seen me post on social media, 95% of the shoots I've done, no matter how risque it may look, that photographer did not cross any lines or try to violate me. And I've known men who are like, I don't know how he could take these pictures, but no, I've no complaints in that category when it comes to photographers. But I just felt like if these photographers are artists, they're artists in their own right. People forget that. People would always tell me, "Oh, Michaela, you love being naked." No, it's the photographer who's also an artist. A lot of times, the way that when I do photo shoots, what you are seeing is how the photographer is seeing me, because he's the one who is choosing the lighting. A lot of times, they're the one who've chosen the setting. It's only like recently where I've had a little bit of input on what I would like. But most of the shoots I've done have been collaborations, but mostly me following the guidance of the photographer because I didn't have ideas. I didn't even like taking pictures, really. There were so many shoots I did where, it's not until recently but so many of the shoots I did, I would be thinking, I can't wait till this shit is over because I was so fucking bored. Because I am a dancer, I'm hyperactive. I don't like being still. The only time I could just be still is if I'm reading. If I'm reading or I'm asleep. That's why I don't like doing yoga. It's too stagnant. I don't want somebody to talk me through the meditation. I'm going to fall asleep. I meditate when I'm drumming. I meditate when I'm lifting weights. Like, I'm a hyperactive person. I need activity. You know what I'm saying? So, doing photo shoots is incredibly boring. People think that it's fucking boring, And for years, I would think, well, why am I doing this? Because I'm not into it. I'm not a model. Whenever somebody would meet me in real life and ask me what I do, I never say I'm a model. I say I'm an exercise physiologist, I'm a strength and conditioning coach, I'm a sports nutritionist, I'm a dancer, I'm a writer, I'm a lot of things, but model is never one of the things that I would say. But people who met me in social media would see all my photos and they would think of me that way. Okay, somebody just called me. Okay. I forgot to put do not disturb on my phone. Sorry about that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I would think, I remember being in my early 20s, mid 20s, even up until my late 20s, thinking to myself, well, I don't understand now why I'm doing this, because, these photographers would ask me, but I don't understand it now, but I think I'll understand it later. Especially, I would say my early to mid. Maybe by my late 20s I started to understand, because I started to teach classes. Like if I did my central strength training classes, then I had photos that I could use for my posters. So I had photos I could use for my promotional stuff. But a lot of the shoots that I did were just artistic collaborations. It was a photographer who saw me, who wanted to shoot me, and I was like, okay. And I haven't been doing a lot of shoots recently because I realized I have so many artistic photos, and I've put so much of that out there that people don't necessarily. People keep thinking of me as a model, and I want them to know I am a fitness instructor. I am not just a fitness instructor. I'm a sports scientist. Okay, I'm actually in a graduate program right now, finishing my master's in applied exercise science and strength and conditioning. I was in a master's program at Columbia in applied physiology and nutrition. I have my Bachelor of Science in exercise and sports science and nutrition. And if you followed my other videos, I have opinions about a lot of things. I'm a very nerdy person. So I need to convey that in my photos now. And most of the photographers I work with that I have a relationship with are in Atlanta or Miami, two cities that I try to stay away from. So it's not... But so now I'm trying to, if I'm going to do a photo shoots, I really want to have a purpose behind it and not just artistic photos. But to get back to the point, when I started doing news shoots with photographers, because the photographers, and not just photographers, but I remember allhiphop.com. You guys, if you're a hip hop fan, you might know All Hip Hop. Allhiphop.com, which has been around for I think 20 years now. I think they had a 20-year anniversary or something. Or maybe it wasn't 20. It's been around for a while. And in 2004, I remember doing 2004, 2005, I did a fashion show for them. And I was supposed to have on clothes. I got fitted for the clothes and everything. I'm like, finally, I get to have on clothes because people always want me naked. And then I got there, they had a body paint artist. I remember they were looking for some girls to paint. And I was writing for Hush Magazine. Hush Magazine was supposed to be like a multicultural Playboy. And I was writing articles for them, never modeled for them. I actually never did glamour shoots, which is the kind of photos that you see in men's like King and stuff like that, Playboy, the more glamour type stuff. I've never really done photos like that. Mine are like more artistic. And so I tried to get models from that magazine to come, and I get there that day. The body paint artist asked me to get naked so she could paint me, and I'm like, why me? And I remember not wanting to do that day, because I was also a writer, and there are people, this is before social media really, so there are people who knew me as a journalist. There are people who knew me from academia. There are people, so I was just like, there were people who come into the event that night who knew me as a writer, and I was nervous of them seeing me naked on stage and seeing me in a different light and not respecting me. I remember thinking that. And so I really didn't want to do it, but they talked me into it. So here I am, the only person on stage naked with paint. Everybody else had clothes on. And I remember that All Hip Hop put a photo of it on their website. And my face was not in the photo. It was a photo from the back. My face wasn't in it. But years after that, I had men coming up to me at parties who recognized me from looking at me from the back. They could tell that it was me, which is really crazy. So I realized, okay, other artists. I remember also being at a Wyclef party. This is like I was a graduate student. And I got hired with some other girls to be painted at a Wyclef party with a bikini on or something. Or I think it was like a birthday party for his sister or something. It was some type of Wyclef party in New York. And I remember the body paint artist, who she wasn't the body paint artist actually, but she was supposed to be a body paint artist, was late. The other model disappeared somewhere. Now the artist comes, the painter comes and says she wanted me to be naked. She was this European woman, and she's like, "Oh, you have to be naked, darling." And I was like, "But I was told I was supposed to have on a bikini." She's like, "Oh no, you're my canvas. You're my canvas, darling. You have to be naked." And she like kept telling me I had to be naked because I was her canvas. So I ended up butt naked in this club where she's putting all this paint all over me, which was not body paint. It was actually paint for canvas. And it looked horrible, and it dried up on my skin. and I couldn't wash it off in the bathroom. I remember trying to get a cab home. No taxi in New York would stop for me because I was covered in paint. And this big fat man who saw me on the street went to his car, got me a big T-shirt, and gave it to me, and I could put that on, and I could get in the cab and go home. So New Yorkers are nice. People say New Yorkers are not nice. New Yorkers are definitely nice. They will help you out if you need it. Trust me. So, and I remember thinking to myself, like, this is how I always end up naked. People think that I love being naked, and it's really me just saying okay to stuff because these artists, I would think, even if I don't understand what people see, well, this artist sees it, and I'm inspired this artist, and this is a legit artist, so I would just flow with it. And I would notice, like, photographers, they would, whatever artists, they would always be commenting on my body. They would all, not in a disrespectful way, but I remember noticing how certain photographers would always be like somehow behind me, and the way that they would react, and when they were at certain angles. And I would see myself, when I would see photos, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I looked like that from that angle. You know, now I guess I understand why people are making such a big deal in high school, or why people, because people were always talking about my ass, this and that, and I was always kind of shy about it, but I also wasn't focused on it. I was always hoping my breasts would get bigger. That's like, I wasn't really focused on it. And so then I started to realize that, you know, MySpace came around, and then everything kind of converged. And then people would write to me and tell me how my photos inspired them, and that was not my intention when I took them. I wasn't even thinking any of that stuff. And I started to say, well, you know what? I teach people how to care for their body, how to be healthy, how to take their bodies to a higher level. And so I'm a walking example of that. So it's like, even though I'm doing artistic modeling, but my body is healthy, all of it, you know? So I said, okay, I guess they can go hand in hand because I'm an example of what I'm teaching. And then I realized how many people look awful naked, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to complain because we all have things that we might want to work on, but you know, I've been amused for many people, and so many people look a hot fucking mess. No offense to anybody, because I do have my not politically correct side of me, but I don't want to make people feel bad. I don't, but at the same time, taking care of my body is a priority, so I don't understand how the way some people let themselves look. I feel like I'd kill myself if I look like that naked. I just can't. So when I started to realize that, I'm like, let me not complain. And even now, because of Instagram, it's hard out here in this world as a woman because there's so many beautiful, gorgeous, attractive women in this world. And it could make a lot of girls feel a certain kind of way about themselves. But the way that I've always dealt with that is that, you know, I mean, I get compliments. I've been getting compliments all my life. I get enough compliments. And there are people, and I appreciate every single one of them. And there are people, but there are things about me that I'm not comfortable with and I don't like, you know. But I don't harp on that because I feel like there are people who don't get compliments. You know, there are people who nobody might not have complimented them never. Or they get one compliment once a year. Or they get more insults than compliments. Or they've got more things going on. So because it can always be worse, I don't want to complain. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be grateful and thankful. I remember I used to hate my feet. And I had surgery on my left foot when in 2000. And I had this scar, and I really wanted to hide my feet. I used to freak out when anybody looked at my feet. Then when I was in college, I took a class it's called adaptive recreation. It's for mentally and physically retarded children, which at the time they said retarded was the correct term to use. I don't know what, you know, politically correctness with terms changes all the time, but that was the correct term at the time. And I remember taking that class, and there were kids in that class who had such serious issues that I remember the first day I cried, and I said, I'm never complaining again. Because I'm over here complaining that I don't like my feet, I have a scar on my foot. Meanwhile, there are people who can't use their feet, or they don't have any feet, or they can't even, they're just stuck like this their whole life, doing that, and can't even talk. And that's somebody's kid. And what kind of life is that? You know what I'm saying? So the fact that that's some people's reality, I'm not going to complain about shit. I'm just going to keep that shit to myself. And some complaints should be kept to your damn self. Nobody wants to hear a rich person complaining about their money problems. And I certainly don't want to hear a rich person tell me that money can't buy happiness. Don't tell me that shit. I'm like, oh, really? Then give me your money then. Let's see. Like, and it's just like when pretty people or attractive people say, "Oh, looks don't matter." Well, when anybody say looks don't matter, because they do, you know. But if you have somebody who's dead gorgeous, and they have this, you know, they're a news anchor, they have a very powerful position, and they're telling you looks don't matter. It's like, you may not have that job right now if you didn't look so, if you weren't so beautiful, and it's true, even though you might be smart. So the thing is about it is just to say that I wasn't always comfortable in my skin. I've gotten more comfortable in my skin the older I've gotten, and I'm just grateful. I'm always working on myself. There are, you know, there are things. And then when it comes to nudity, it's like, I mean, we're all sexual beings. We all come from sex. We all have sex. If you're not having sex and you have a really sucky ass life, to be dead honest. And so it's like, why front on that? You know what I'm saying? What is the problem? You look at ancient artwork, you see nudity. You go to any high-level art museum, you see nudity. So why should I be ashamed, you know, of my naked body? Because everything I've ever done, I always would think, you know, how would I feel if my kids knew this, you know? If I have kids one day and they saw these artistic photos, or if I have kids one day and they find out that I'm bisexual, how would I feel? I'm like, I wouldn't hide those things, you know what I'm saying? Because for what? If I had a kid who was bisexual, I wouldn't want them to feel like they had to hide that from me. So why would I hide that? And I'm not trying to hide that shit, you know? And so for me, it's just like, we all see nudity in art. It's okay if it's a sculpture. You know, you see sculptures all over the place, all over the world with nudity in it. Paintings and my Afro-Indigenous ancestors, okay? My people come from Florida for as far back as we can trace. And warrior, Afro-Indigenous, Afro-Seminole, regardless, everybody who comes from someplace that is hot, before they were colonized, they were not running around with a whole bunch of clothes on. You know, it was religion that brought that perversion. And trying to control sexuality, trying to control the woman's body. I wasn't raised with that religious shit. So that's already not, but it affects society so much that even if you're not religious, sometimes you have to battle the societal things. And really it comes to being strong enough to stand in your truth and know your truth and not be, like, think about it. What makes sense? I was raised to believe what makes sense to me, and it doesn't make sense to me to be ashamed of my naked body. Now, I want to have control because my body is my body, so I want to have control over who sees what, when. But, you know, like, I've become more comfortable with myself in time as I've become an older person, and I've realized that, you know, the photographer, anybody who goes to art school, they're drawing nude models. What's the difference between the model who models for the artist in the art school? Why is that okay? But then the model who models for the photographer, that's not okay. Why is it okay that people can post paintings on their Instagram or their Facebook of nudity, but if it's a photo, it's a problem? So, when you look at, and I'm very much into depictions in ancient art, and I'm into the truth. That's part of what I'm here for. You know what I'm saying? That's part of what I'm here for on this planet. People got shit twisted, you know? The masses have been brainwashed by patriarchal religion, and it has had a greater effect on people than they even realize. And most people don't realize it because you were raised in that shit. And then the people who realize it had to spend years deconditioning their mind from that traumatic bullshit. Sorry to offend anybody, but it is. And it blocks a lot of truth, and it has rewritten, not, I don't want to say history, it's rewritten the mysteries and turned it into history, his story. It has rewritten and changed what is the truth. And there was a time when women were walking around butt-ass naked, where it was hot, of course, and men were not grabbing them and raping them. You know, so there's so much sexual trauma, there's so much perversion, there's so many people who just are violating, and then people put the blame on women. Oh, you shouldn't be out there like that. Look, I don't give a fuck if I am ass naked. Nobody has the right to put their hands on me if I didn't give you permission. And one thing that I would like to do one day is be someplace where the laws, I don't know what all the laws are in all the American states. I know some parts of the country you could walk around topless. But I would walk around with the skimpiest little string bikini, hardly covering anything, oil myself up in coconut oil so I'm shiny as fuck, and go outside with a pit bull, maybe 2 pit bulls that I'm walking. No dude would say shit to me or fuck with me. No dude would try to violate me then. What an amazing world that dudes would be scared to even talk crazy if I was walking down the street with two pit bulls. That's why I hate when I see women with little piece of shit, little shit dogs. I hate those little shit dogs. What is the point of those dogs? They're just using your resources. You have to pick up their shit. You gotta walk them and feed them, and whatever else comes along with those little dogs, and they can't even protect you. What the fuck is the purpose? To me, they're just taking up resources. If I'm gonna have a dog, it's gonna be a dog that can fuck somebody up. Because I remember as a kid, my aunt had this dog that was part pit bull, part something else, and I loved that dog. People used to, me and my twin brother used to walk that dog. People used to cross the street from down the block and get away from us. So as a woman, because I used to say, if women were trained on hand-to-hand combat, like my dad has been training me on how to cut dudes since I was a kid. But if every woman was trained on hand-to-hand combat and weapons training, I would always say then more women would feel more comfortable stepping out into their, their sexual power or expressing themselves or wearing certain things. But a lot of women are afraid of being attacked. There are a lot of women who've already been attacked. So that causes a lot of women to suppress stuff. But even more so than a woman being trained on hand-to-hand combat is to have a fucking team of pit bulls. You know what I'm saying? Don't let me get famous, because I'll be walking around everywhere like that, like Rihanna style, nipples out, fucking naked as fuck. I'll have a bunch of I would have female bodyguards who were trained in hand-to-hand combat and weapons training and had motherfucking dogs. And all of us would be hot. And all people would do, people think they look at the FOI or whatever, when they come down the street, no. Everybody would, it would be all eyes on us. Don't let me get money, because that's what you will see. Because I have the right to let my nipples breathe, let my body breathe, let the sun touch my skin, and be however the fuck I want without anybody putting their hands on me if I didn't give them permission. Instead of society blaming women, instead of society blaming women, they should blame men and tell men to get fucking control over themselves. Because I remember in high school going to a mosque in New York, and they told us the reason why the women have to cover up like this when they pray, the reason why the women have to cover up like this is because the men can't concentrate when they're praying. And I remember then thinking, that's a crock of shit. So you're telling me I got to put on all these extra motherfucking clothes and be hot and uncomfortable because these men can't concentrate? How come somebody doesn't tell these men to get control over themselves? And this is what I'm talking about with patriarchal religion being a problem. And then people talk about the whatever the thing is called. No, I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but the scarf, I forget, the hijab, the scarf that the Muslim women wear, and people act like that's a symbol of like empowerment, a woman's empowerment. It's not to me. It's a symbolism of patriarchal empowerment. It's a symbol of men shaming women for their sexuality and calling us the evil temptress. And it's not healthy to be walking around covered up like that all the time, especially in the summertime. You're not getting any sun. Now you have vitamin D deficiencies. Like, I'm not with that. And again, I believe it makes sense to me. A lot of people have been brainwashed by religion. So when you're strong enough to stand in your truth and not give a fuck about what the religious stuff is saying, I know myself. I know what I'm here for, and so therefore I have no choice but to be comfortable in my skin, right? But it wasn't always this way, and I am kind of shy still, so I'm always still working on that. Like a lot of the when I post videos and stuff on social media dancing, a lot of it is practice for me, and dancing in front of a camera and talking to a camera is different than talking to people or dancing in front of people. But also it's because I'm a dancer, and I need to put that out there, because I could say I'm a dancer, people heard me say that for years, but all they saw was photos. So I'm like, okay, let me show these people that I can dance, and I do all different kinds of dance. And I still haven't shown my best work in video because I need to be in the studio with a camera person instead of trying to keep my long limbs in this little frame while I'm dancing. So you haven't seen 50% of what I can do, but I'm just saying. That's why. And I think about what makes sense to me. I think if I study these Afro-Caribbean dances, where the movements are centered in the hips and there's a lot of booty shaking, but sometimes they got a lot of clothes. Sometimes they might do these movements and they got on a big skirt, which is like some colonialism outfits, which I have something to say about that too. With the Caribbean dancers, where a lot of them still dress like it's slavery times. I'm like, slavery is over. You don't have to have on 3 skirts and a bonnet and a ruffly blouse. Like, you don't need that. It's too hot to be dancing in that in Brazil and Cuba and Haiti. And that was what the slave masters told us our bodies were indecent. When you look at Africans and when you look at Native Americans who were uncolonized, they weren't wearing all that shit when they were dancing. Okay, so when I know that truth, like if you're gonna be about it. You know, there's a lot of people who are saying, "Oh, they're about some Afrocentric shit." But then they're so terrified of nudity, and they have on all these clothes. That was post-colonial. I mean, that was post-colonial shit. Post-colonial dogma of telling us that we were indecent and we needed to cover up, and that's where that comes from. So if you're supposed to be so Afrocentric and you're supposed to be so down with what the truth, then you need to get over your fear and discomfort with nudity, and people feeling like they own people's bodies, like men saying, "Oh, my woman can't post shit like that. My woman can't show this. My woman can't." What? Say what? And that's why I'm with a man that can handle that. Like, he knows what he has. He knows I love him. And ain't nobody tripping on that shit. That's who I was when he met me, and that's who I'll always be. He doesn't think that he can control my body and control what I do. And there are plenty of men who have enough sense not to be that way. And there are plenty of men who are comfortable in themselves. That they're not... It's only a what is that? Insecure man that feels that way, that he has to try to control somebody like that. And I'm not going for it because I'm close to my dad, and my dad is the one that told me not to take that kind of shit from men. My dad is the one who told me not to let men try to control me. My dad is the one that told me believe what makes sense to me and think critically, even though I was already naturally that way. And my dad is the one who always pointed out powerful women to me in positions of power. And my dad is the one who, when I was a young woman, told me, don't feel like you can't be sexual because you're a woman. Like I said, I have a twin brother. And so he said that he tried to raise us equally the same. And tried not to be, because she's a girl, because she's a boy, even though there were differences. Like, he taught me how to cut a dude in case a dude attacked me. He didn't teach my brother that. He taught my brother how to box, because my dad used to be a boxing coach. But regardless of that, when I have a father who told me, like who likes you, don't. Ever since I was a little girl, and I couldn't. Ever since I was a little girl, and so ever since I could think, my dad would tell me, like who likes you. Don't sit around crying over some motherfucker who doesn't care, who doesn't give a fuck about you. Don't do it. And my dad used to always tell me that. That stayed in my head all my life. I could have had a crush on a dude. I found out this dude wasn't interested, which wasn't often, but found out he wasn't interested, and I get over it. I'm not going to sit around, with that shit. I'm not about that life, And in my adult life, I'm in a good relationship now, but in my adult life, I've had some traumatic relationships, and I always felt like if it wasn't for my dad, I might have low self-esteem as a woman. Because when I think about the luck I would have with certain dudes who were just crazy fuckers, thankfully I've never been raped or attacked or beat up or anything like that because I was smart enough to see those signs and get the fuck out of the way. And I think a lot of that comes from training, having, being able to recognize certain things. And some of it could be luck, so it's not completely that. But I just feel like when it comes to getting hit by a man, there are warning signs. There ain't no dude ever fucking put his hands on me. But I've been around men who I felt like might do that, so I got away from them as calmly as possible. I'm not the chick to turn up on a dude. I'm not going to try to hit him. If I see this dude's little nuts, I'm not going to even talk crazy. I'm just trying to be quiet and think of my exit plan, period. I don't care where I am. I don't do that shit. So, no, never been hit. But my dad, I would feel like such a failure if I was doing that because my dad, not even my mom, my dad, is something even more powerful. about a girl hearing this from her father. And so my dad always said, like, when I was in my early 20s, don't feel like because you're a woman you can't be sexual, but just understand there's a lot of crazy-ass dudes in this world. You need to know how to protect yourself. You need to stay aware. And, because there are dudes, there could be a dude that's watching you. And he sees you every day, and every day he's mad because he's intimidated by intelligent, beautiful, independent women. And then he attacks you because he feels like he can't have you. He said that happens to women every day. And if any motherfucker ever puts his hands on you, I want him to be the one running for help and not you. My dad has always been concerned with my safety, but he never told me that I should suppress my womanness to make other people comfortable. Also, when I was a kid, my dad's a black intellectual. We would be places, and my dad would get into debates with white guys about stuff. It could be politics, history, whatever. And I remember my dad getting into some fierce arguments, cursing some white dudes out. And I remember one day we were at a Grambling game in the press box, because my dad was press. And he got an argument with some white dude. He was pissed. We left. And I remember what he said to me. He said, Michaela, listen. When you're around white people, you always have something to say. Don't ever make them feel like you don't have something to say. Fuck that shit. They're not smarter than you. And they can't. And my dad used to always say, I'm not intimidated by these white boys. Like if they had to live in a black man's shoes for 24 hours, most of them would try to kill themselves. And like I was just raised to stand strong in who I am, and to be like I never wished I was white. I never wished I was lighter. If anything, I loved when I got darker. Like I never, and so I think that how I was raised and my relationship with my dad also helps my comfort level in who I am. It's just a sum total of everything I've learned and put together based on my critical thinking skills and connecting it with my sacred role on this planet. So that long answer, I'm a complex person. People be asking me questions, they think they're going to get a simple answer, but it's not. There are serious reasons for every single thing I do. So when you see me shaking my butt cheeks and with my little bikini bottoms, there's a reason. Because it is good for your health. It really is. It is good for your health for a variety of reasons. And it could be good for the health of the person looking at it if it makes them happy and excited and gets their blood flowing. Right? There are many different health properties. Plus, I'm a dancer. And a dancer, our tool is our body. Why would I hide that? Why are we hiding that? And we do that in dances of the African diaspora, post-colonialism. There are these beautiful movements, but they're being hidden by all these clothes. And people think that's African. No, that is from the colonial people. The colonizers telling us that. So when you start to see the truth, a lot of people claim they see the truth, but they're not strong enough to walk in it. So when you claim you see it, you know it, you understand it, this is what you're here for. I have no choice but to walk in it. So that's my story of my comfort level in my body. And I think that I might have said everything I needed to say. But that doesn't mean still that there are certain things that I'm still subconscious about. There are certain things I would never show anybody. We all have our things, but you're not going to see me complain. All I'm going to do is keep working on being better. That's all. That's my life mission. Telling the truth, teaching the people, making money, having fun, having good sex, doing what I'm supposed to do, being a good person, and pleasing my ancestors. So anyhow, make sure you follow me on YouTube at The Renaissance Amazon and on Instagram at The Renaissance Amazon 81. And have a good day. Thank you for listening. Bye, people. Bye.